Welcome to Pagan Crafting, where magic and creativity intertwine. I'm Kara, your guide to enchanting art, nature, and witchcraft. Today on Nature Grimoire with me, we're going to make our first ever pop-up page. This easy to do. We're going to have forest tree line. We're going to bring in some elk, a really cool raven with a moon, and mountainscape lines. Join me together for some fun today, and let's craft some magic together. Before we start our page, I'd like to introduce you to today's PDF downloads. We're going to have 2 pages, super simple, because this is going to be more based on what kind of cardstock that you wish to carry. We're going to have some silhouettes of elk, a raven, and the forest line, and you get to make your silhouette of the mountains yourself, or you can use my line drawing here. What we're going to do is we're going to fussy cut out about 1/8 of an inch around all the animals, and then what we're going to do is the same thing for the tree line as well. You can get right in there if you want to. That'll take you a few hours if you want. I'm going to leave 1/8 of an inch. I think it's going to look cool, and it's going to bring some dimension and some layers and make it a little bit easier and faster to do, a little easier on the hands. I've cut out the mountainscapes here too. Now you can see I have a page already I'm thinking about working with. But I have some other pages here too. So this is my color scheme that I like to stick to when I'm bringing in the forestscape, the mountainscapes. I'm going to bring in a beautiful sage greens. So now that I've picked the paper, I would like to start off with my mountains here. I'm going to leave about 1/4 of an inch space to 1/2 an inch around the edges, but I'm also going to design some flaps. So we're going to do, which is be 1 centimeter or about 1/2 an inch line underneath the mountainscapes. Now I'm roughly drawing in my mountains. You can totally trace this out perfectly. I wound up thinking a little bit bigger for my mountains. Drawing a straight line from end to end to end, adding about 1/2 inch line or 1 centimeter, using the trace of the mountainscapes. Doesn't have to be perfect. Mountains are not. They're our own little magical world, so they can be whatever we want them to be. So I'm using a 12 by 12 cardstock, but whichever paper is easiest, best for you that you like to use, as long as the mountains are long enough. Now, you could probably get away with an 8 by 10 cardstock paper as well, and you could just make 2 or 3 sets of mountains, whatever you wish, and you'll see how this all plays together if you have room on your page or not. And if you're going with a smaller journal, you might just want to go with 1 set of mountains, maybe 1 set of the forest tree line. Now what I'm drawing here is some flaps. I'm going to be mounting this paper, folding it right in half for this one first. And we want this going to be, I guess I should have thought that out before I folded it right in half there, but we're going to go with that one. I kind of thought about a little bit of oblong maybe on the side, so I'll make the next one that way. As you can see my little flaps that I made here, I'll show you what we're going to be using those for later. Now, this page that I have underneath, you see here with a collage of coffee dyed paper, was my original paper that I was going to go with, but it's the back of the signature, and the papers aren't fitting quite right. And I know better And this type of project should be done in the exact same center of a signature so the book folds out perfectly. So in just a moment, I'm going to realize that this is not flying very well, no matter how much I love this paper that I created. So I think we're going to save this signature paper for another spread, and we will come back to this one. And I'm going to have to jump ahead to another signature where I can start off at the center one and not in order. Oh my gosh, it's killing me. But these things happen. Live and learn, live and learn. So now I'm going to mount the back of these to some other paper. I just can't quite decide. I almost went with a burgundy, but I really want to stick to my green vision. So I think this one may be the one for me. Using some double-sided tape. You could also use a glue stick. And leave about a 1/2 inch on the bottom to create your flaps. And you're going to be folding that over. And you're going to be cutting out some flaps to go with that. So don't forget to leave a little bit of space at the bottom. And you can see with the trees what I've done. I've also cut out about 1/8 of an inch space around the perimeter of all the tree line. And we're going to do the same thing with this green paper. I would like some of this green to pop through and give us a 3rd layer to the trees. So again, fussy cutting out. Doesn't have to be perfect. It's great for arthritic hands. It's great for sore hands at the end of the day. You don't have to be perfect with it. And it's going to look cool. Okay, so while I'm finishing this up, we'll just go to the next part. So for some reason, I felt like bringing in a little splash of some rose pink. So let us bring in some Alberta rose pink, and I'm bringing in some Mod Podge to get into this a little bit thinner. Again, you could use a glue stick if you have that on hand. I'm just using a thin brush, making it super easy and very, very fine, thin coating so it'll dry fast, and then it won't wrinkle the paper either. What we're going to do is we're also going to leave about a 1/2 inch space at the bottom because we're also going to cut that and make flaps. I feel like the bird's going to live there. It can live in the mountains if you'd like. It can live on this page. Wherever you see fit. It can live flying across the moon that we're going to put up here in a moment. I feel like using this big rose as a background for my moon. And once again, we left an 1/8 of an inch space around the animals and the bird. And we're going to do that same thing again as we're cutting out the paper, because I would like some of these pinks and these off greens to punch out through. Now at the moon, I'm going to cut off some of the leaves, but I really would love to see some of these beautiful buds and leaving the stem. And then we're going to bring that all together here in just a moment. So now that we have all those cut out, let's not forget our little flaps, that we need to make. And again, I'm going to show you in just a moment why we needed all of these. and why I needed also a different paper and to use the center of a signature, not the one that I really wanted to use at the end, and it didn't quite line up. Yeah, being stubborn here. But I'm going to bring in the right tools in just a moment. So I'm going to try one more time, as you can see here, and the mountains are going to go in the back. And then I'm like, I got it. I can't. I got to start a new signature. Oh, this is going to work out perfectly now. So the mountains will go there. Tree line. Now, not everything needs to be folded right in half. Let's just have a little bit of a flavor coming on both sides of the paper. Kind of like a little oblong spatial instead of it having... We don't need to be equal. Both sides don't need to be perfect. The forest is not... We want to be able to like walk around this page and not just... going right through it. So you can see I'm having fun with the tree line and I'm not folding it in half. And this will determine where I'm going to be putting my little flaps once again. And these little flaps will make sense in just a moment. Got my mountains. Got my trees. My elk, got my moon. I don't know where I'm going to put my moon yet. I might put it somewhere in the mountains. Now I'm thinking a cool background page. Something thin and simple. We might stamp it up. I found this one here and I like it. It's something that is not going to take away from the forest. It's not going to be too busy at the bottom for this type of piece. I'm just going to mark off the pages, cut out the center here, and just make it into an 8 by 10, 8.5 by 10, an A4 page. Now this one I am going to overlap. Just trim off the bottom here so it fits a little bit nicer. We don't have to deal with it later. Using the book for a bend, and I'm going to trim off this inside piece, but we're going to glue the two pieces together. But I just don't want it too bulky in the center because I want a beautiful fold when we're working with this pop-up pages. We don't want too much bulk crimping our style in the centerpiece. Using double-sided tape, or you could use Mod Podge along with glue stick. And I'm going to give it some reinforcement to the back. So I'm using some tape here. And that should give it a little bit more love and a little bit more security when I'm going to be bending that. So I'm going to start off with my centerpiece, and that's the elk. So you get to position this, mark off where your tags are. Do a double check, measure twice, cut once, align to the line as you can see here are my tags, so the outside of the tags. Removing your back signature so you don't cut into it. And using an X-Acto knife from those little A to B marks. Now we take those little tabs that we made earlier and we're going to slide those into our little slots that we just cut. If it's a little tight, add a little bit more of a line. You don't need to add too much. and it'll snap in there quite nicely. Look at that. First page done. Pop-up book is started. Feeling confident. Let's go to the next one. Now, I decided to put the tree line in front instead of behind. It just makes more sense. So I'm going to play around with some configurations. And I wound up putting both trees in the front, which I didn't expect to do. It wasn't my first vision. And again, marking off the tabs. You never know where the journey's going to lead you when it comes to art magic. I had a different vision for this when I started, and it's just coming along as it is. You may place your pieces differently on your page compared to mine, and that's totally cool. It's wherever the spirit leads you. And those tabs that we made earlier again fit quite nicely. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we're going to take them all out again now. We marked all our lines. And now let's do some stamping. I need to mix up this page a little bit. It needs a little bit of care of love here coming in. So I have some, I guess it'd be like an espresso brown and a sage green we're going to be using for our stamps. Now this one I can get 2 to 3 stamps out of it, pending on the page how much it sucks up its ink, but I want a really good print, so I'm only doing like 2 stamps. Going all directions with this print as well, and just mixing it up a little bit. I don't want to cover the butterfly too much. I wanted to keep that on this page. So I don't want to stamp too much more over top of that. So I got to be careful that I don't overwhelm the page, because I tend to get a little carried away when I stamp pages and paper. This is a lovely little letterhead. And I wound up going back in just with some stamps, the stamp part of it, the little post stamp, and adding some extra little dimension. Now it just needs a little bit more aging, so I'm going to bring that around the edges. Yeah, bring a little bit over the pages, distress it a little bit more, rough it up a little bit more. It was just a little bit too white, needed to be aged a bit more for me. And if you don't have paper like this, just use paper bag paper, and you can make some cool stuff. Coffee dyed paper, and stamp her up. Now we get to assemble everything back again. This won't take but a moment. Now I'm going to be taping these down. Boy, did that fit nice. I'm so stoked. Our first mountain is in. And we're going to continue on. So we're going to put in each flap and then just tape it down. And I like to tape it in case you need to move it around a little bit, if you need to fussy a little bit. Versus gluing it straight up right away. You may need to position it in place, so it's good to kind of have just some good old tape. Get a little squish now and again. Make sure that's working out. Oh, that didn't quite get all the way in there. And just give it another go over. I am so stoked how wonderfully they're lining up. Okay, so now that I have all that together, I'm doing some double checks, making sure everything is super cool on there. Squishing everything down, having a look, and I can't see my mountains. I didn't make them big enough. I'm not happy with them. I'm taking them out, my friends. It's not what I envisioned. That's okay. This is the reason why I put tape. You can change your mind. I'm not going to toss these mountains though. I'm going to use them to stencil out the next ones. So don't let those ones go. I'm going to use half a paper on this. So I'll stencil out again. And this time I'm going to make them quite large. So I'm going to actually make them the size of the paper. I'm going to use the same flaps. And let's just try this. I could always make them a little bit smaller if I go too big. I'd rather go bigger, and I can always cut away versus I can't cut away. I can't add to cut out mountains. So let's try I'm going to use the other mountains too. I like it. Let's use them both. I'm just using again some double-sided tape, and I forgot to cut off the flap, so I have to take that off because we don't want something too thick cruising in there. And there, oh my goodness, I like this how it turned out anyway. Yeah, right away as soon as I saw it, I'm like, the mountains are too small. I just lost the mountain behind the centerpiece. And that's okay to change her up. Change her up halfway through if it doesn't go with what you saw in your vision, in your mind's eye first. It's all about the creative thought process. It's all about imperfection. Okay, so I'm struggling a little bit with letting it fit in. So I'm going to make the slots just a tiny bit bigger because I changed where I put my center fold on this one. So I'm just going to maneuver it over to the left slightly, and that should fold back in on itself, adding some tape. Just in case I got to move it again, change my mind. Ooh, that looks better. A little peek looks better already. And let's see how this one fits in. There we be. Oh my gosh, I'm excited. You guys, this is my first pop-up page I've ever made. This is so exciting for me. I love pop-up books so much. Those of you that grew up with pop-up books and love them so much still to this day, throw me down a little painter's palette and let me know if you like the pop-up books. Oh my gosh, it was one of my favorite type of books. Now let's add our moon. I'm going to have it coming into the mountains. using some double-sided tape to help stick it on, but I don't know how well, because I think it's a little bit heavy with this cardstock that I use, so you don't have to use thick cardstock. So instead I'm going to add a little bit of one-sided or two-sided tape with a touch of hot glue to give it a really good hold. Oh my gosh, those mountains rock. Oh, they're perfect. And our saying, we can't forget that. And we're going to put this simply off to the left side in the corner or wherever you wish for your particular page spread. Depending on what type of background paper that you go with is where you'll see fit to add your little saying that goes with this Grimoire page. Why do they make Mod Podge containers so hard to open? How they have their edges is always glue all over it. So I'm using the double-sided tape and Mod Podge to glue it down. Really, I'm just gonna use my finger. I'm not gonna like dirty another brush right now. And now the reveal. Well, thank you so very much for hanging out with me. And as always, it's a pleasure to chill out with you. Throw me down in the comments if you'd like to see some more Nature Grimoire with me, and I would love to hear from you. Until then, happy crafting and blessed be.